Hello and welcome to my channel, and I want to review a film. Ordinarily I've been looking at Bollywood songs from certain films, but this time I want to start a little bit looking at some classic Western films from Hollywood or the English-speaking world, let's say, that I grew up in, and I really want to take a look at them properly. This is a particular film which I saw many years ago as a child, and I'm really excited to take a look at it now. It's called Suspect. It's just an iconic 80s film. Anyone who is familiar with this film will really recognize that it's got a star cast of Liam Neeson, of Cher, of John Marnie, who was in Frasier, of Dennis Quaid, of these wonderful group of actors in a really tight thriller. Suspect. It's a great classic courtroom drama. So I haven't looked at this in years. Let's take a look at the trailer and then I'm going to watch the film and I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Let the record show that Miss Riley with the Public Defender's Office will represent Mr. Anderson.
Well, Your Honor, I'm due for vacation. I haven't had a vacation in a year. Leave me alone. Jury tampering is a felony.
We haven't tampered with me. Yet. A bag lady found this down by the river where Elizabeth was killed.
What are you, a detective now?
The nation's capital, a public defender facing the biggest dilemma of her career.
Miss Riley, have you had contact with a juror on this trial? If I find any evidence of collusion, I'll have you disbarred.
If he did it, I'm gonna vote guilty. But if he's innocent, I don't want that on my conscience.
A juror with information that can help her.
What you're asking me to do is absolutely illegal.
You're gonna let your client just fry because you want to play by the rules?
Or destroy her.
I mean, I thought the whole idea was to find the truth.
Something was in there, and Elizabeth Quinn found it.
What's the connection?
This behavior is bordering on professional misconduct, Miss Riley.
I'm no angel. I'm having a really hard time just, pretending like it's business as usual.
They were brought together by a murder.
But of the murder cases I have prosecuted, this is the most horrible, the most senseless, the most indefensible.
By a mystery.
Did you kill Elizabeth Rose Quinn?
This is a bad place to have enemies.
Who is this? I said, who is this?
By a suspect.
Great. 1987 that was. And it's so interesting, you get the real flavour of the late 80s in America at that point. And this is exactly the period that I was a very young child. And so I picked up secondhand a lot of these films and glimpses of these films on television and references to these films late 80s, early 90s. So it is so interesting because it's America looking at itself, obviously, through a film, looking at Washington DC, looking at the courts and the law system. And of course, one of the great huge TV shows at that time in America was LA Law. So courtroom dramas, you've got Cher, you've got a thriller, a suspect, you've got politicking. It's got a lot from that era. I keep thinking it's New York, but it's Washington DC, isn't it? In that time, so much of television on the East Coast was focused around New York. New York was this cultural capital. It's that East Coast late 80s vibe, which is a very particular style, and you see some of the great fashions that Cher's wearing as well. I'm going to watch the film now. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but it's so exciting to see this because it's such a potent, iconic era in American English-speaking culture. Let's take a look. So I just watched Witness, and it's such a snapshot of America in the late 80s. It's an incredibly well-produced film and well-performed film and beautifully written film. We have this central performance from Cher. In my opinion, from what I remember, the best performance I've seen of hers. She's known as this huge pop star from all the way back from the 60s, going through the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. She is an icon of femininity and music, so much more. She's a representative of the Native American community of America. There's a lot to be said about Cher as a personality, as a presence in this film. aside from anything else. Then we have John Mahoney from Frasier, who played Frasier's dad very famously through the 90s and the 2000s. An incredible, wonderful, lovable actor. Just a joyous actor to watch. And of course, we've got Dennis Quaid as this young, hotshot DC lobbyist who becomes a juror by accident, but then becomes interested in the case, is impressed by Cher's character's spirit and intelligence and defiance. Then we have this incredible storyline, which I won't spoil for you because it's just such a good thriller. It's a joy to watch. It's a true joy. We have the late 80s, just the style and the fashion and the atmosphere. You can feel the cold in the late 80s. It's such a trope in American 80s films that they have to deal with the cold. They have big socks and big jumpers. It's a very interesting time in American culture where we have this real feminist representation of women really challenging the norms that are sort of so set from the 50s, that sort of gender relationships and women being subservient and not being able to become a lawyer, for instance, as Cher's character is. So we have this incredible kind of mixture of snapshots of the time, the strong female role model that Cher plays. We have the iconic personality that Cher brings to that role. We have the DC law and politics circuit being uncovered and prodded and critiqued. We have a classic courtroom drama. And of course, we've got this incredible performance from Liam Neeson, a very young Liam Neeson, playing a homeless man who is accused of a particular murder. And we see him initially a complete mess, bearded and covered in dirt and rubbish. And so we have that cultural subject of the homeless. It's Bush 1 era, after the changes brought on by Reagan and the social dislocation that caused for so many people. We have this subject of the mass homeless population. So there's a lot of hot button topics that touch on important subjects for America at that time. And I remember watching this as a very young child. It was just such an impressive atmosphere and so thrilling and scary and exciting to watch this film. It really was one of the early films that I ever saw that really excited me about storytelling and what a film can say. So it really has that, but I haven't seen it in many years. I just love it. John Mahoney is brilliant as the judge. Absolutely fascinating. That's the character. Aside from Liam Neeson's incredible, mute, agonized focus of suspicion and fear, he is the suspect. Aside from him, we've got this incredibly understated performance from John Mahoney that just is a masterclass in character. I really love that performance, and I've always had it in mind since childhood, since seeing this film. And of course Cher, and of course Dennis Quaid, who's this wonderful, conflicted, ambitious young man. And so much of the film touches on ambition and how to get ahead in the cutthroat world of 80s America. It's all glamorous, but you see the cost of the glamour and you see the painful moral choices that these people are forced to make. And it's such a central aspect, a theme, a question of this film that it really, really moves me. And I think Dennis Quaid goes on a journey from being this hack lobbyist who's actually incredibly vulnerable, I can see, and incredibly naive in a way and quite young, to facing a fork in the road, becoming excited in this case and in the question of justice, and actually seeing an injustice take place in this courtroom. And he actively endangers his career, endangers his life to aid Cher, I keep calling her Cher, in winning this case. It's an incredible ensemble performance, I really think. And I don't think Cher, I would do her an injustice to say she was Cher. She is a wonderful, wonderful actress in this film, and she embodies this young, ambitious yet ethically justice-centered lawyer. She's not in any way a diva. She is truly an ensemble actor in this, and she's so quirky and young and frustrated and ambitious. It's absolutely fascinating to watch. So all of those things, I would say, really, really appeal. And obviously the writing is just wonderful. As one would expect, the soundtrack's really powerful. The cinematography really tells the story. Like any great thriller, you have some great sequences where people's lives are in danger, and the camera really ratchets up alongside the soundtrack that sense of tension and threat. I love it. I love it. I love it. So this is my joy to really review this. Suspect. It's on Amazon Prime, and I'm sure it's on many other good distributors and platforms. If you want a really good thriller, watch it. Many thanks to you all. Suggestions are welcome. Bye for now.